latte smoothie.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of experimenting, so we'll see what comes out of this.
With the wonderful pumpkin squash family, which includes all the hundreds of varieties of squash and pumpkin and cucumbers and melons, all variations on the same family. It's a very seasonal vegetable, the season right now being end of November in England. So there are an abundance of squashes. Great thing about them is they tend to last fresh even outside the fridge, sometimes the whole year, sometimes 12 months, depends how fresh and pristine they are. But they'll definitely last all winter if they're nice, good quality, organic, grown in wonderful soils. So we start by practicing our karate and chopping it in half. Simple as that. You just need the skills. Of course, heart-shaped. So as you can see, it's full of lovely seeds. Now, depending on the variety of pumpkin, some pumpkins come with bigger seeds, some pumpkins come with seeds with shells. Most of the squashes in this country, and I use the word squash and pumpkin interchangeably, come with a shell on the seed. They're typically the organic pumpkin seeds in England are available as the Chinese ones quite often, and the Austrian ones, often known as Styrian pumpkin seeds. This is an example of the Styrian pumpkin seeds. This brand Rapunzel is very good, organic, European. Sometimes they're raw, sometimes they're lightly roasted. But as you can see, they tend to be much darker in colour, richer, thicker, and tastier than the Chinese ones. Although of course the Chinese ones, if they're organic, they're good. Of course you can get the pumpkin seed oil. This is Styrian pumpkin seed oil. Ooh, one of the many varieties of squash that grow in the UK, and blend it in a powerful blender, such as a Vitamix, with a little bit of water, thereby making the pumpkin seed milk out of the freshest pumpkin seeds, squash seeds, straight from the squash, and add a wonderful sweet, low glycemic fruit to that, which will add more creaminess and milkiness, and a perfect example of a whole food nutrition. And if we need to tweak make it more creamy, we can add some of the pumpkin seeds, some of the pumpkin seed oil. Another option on the pumpkin seeds, we have raw ecstasy, Creme and Charlotte's wonderful sprouted, activated pumpkin seeds that sometimes we make ourselves in the restaurant. That's an example that you can see here. These ones have been soaked in purified water and then dehydrated with a little Celtic sea salt. So those would be even easier to digest. So depending how many seeds we get out of here will depend how milky it is. And we are going to strain it through one of my favorite tools, the chinois. Pumpkin or squash skin, all those wonderful colors in it, and all that wonderful silica which gives it that shine and that hard outer protective layer. It's going to give us some wonderful shine in our skin and give us a rich outer protective layer. So loads of minerals in there. So there's various ways we could do this. We could just blend the seeds first and then strain those through the chinois and strain out the husk. Or we could just blend the whole thing. Today we're going to experiment with blending the whole thing. So part of the beauty of this little video is that this is an idea that I've just had for some time. I've done various variations on experimenting with it over the years. Blending whole foods, blending things, blending pumpkin, blending squash. But just to show you that there's so much room for experimentation in the world of living raw and wild foods. Plant passionate, plant paradise foods. So I'm going to chopping it up into reasonably small sized pieces, enough to not give the blender too much work. The smaller the pieces the better, because no matter how powerful your blender, you don't want to give it an unnecessary amount of hard work. Plus obviously the squash skin is very hard and tough, and the squash itself is very dense, especially for a fruit. So So this is going to be an abundance of food, and it's probably going to fill us both up. We could probably just live on this all day. So because it's going to take a lot of power to blend such a dense fruit or vegetable, we're going to end up creating a bit of friction in the blender, creating a bit of heat. So just to keep as much of the nutrients intact as possible, I'm using refrigerated spring water or purified water to help cool down the whole process. And my personal preference is to add in some wonderful fresh sea salt, which is going to help extract the flavors and extract the nutrition out of the pumpkin and make it easier to blend. So it's nice and smooth now. I'm going to add in another cup or so of water. So we've pretty much got up to a litre of nice cold spring water in there. So also while blending something to a hardcore degree, it would be a good idea, especially if it was something other than yellow, to preserve the freshness, color, and add lots of antioxidants to prevent it oxidizing from the blades and the chopping action and the spinning vortex. It would be a great idea. We could throw in a whole lemon, which I would ordinarily do if I hadn't already made some wonderful rosehip syrup, which we'll show you in another video since it's the time of year of rosehips and they are a wild superfood. I'm going to add in about a cup, maybe a little bit more, of this wonderful wild rosehip syrup, which essentially does the same thing as a lemon. Very sour, tangy, antioxidant and vitamin C rich substance, which is going to add all those benefits to us and help the blending of everything else go smoother. Excuse the pun. This would have been great to do at the beginning, because now we've already done quite a bit of blending. It would have been perfect to add these at the beginning. But since we have fresh organic ginger and fresh organic turmeric, and because they are quite fibrous, it would have been great to throw them in the beginning before we get to the straining part. Look at this golden, happy yellow. That's going to get you through the winter with no seasonal affective disorder, that's for sure. Now, I would more than enjoy having this as it is. However, we're going to blend in some extra pumpkin seeds. We don't need to blend all of this liquid to blend the pumpkin seeds. So since we already have them on the board, I'm going to put all of these pumpkin seeds in. Pumpkin seeds, of course, rich in copper. Now, what better to sweeten it for Christmas than a bit of wonderful organic maple syrup. Okay, so we're adding in maybe 3 tablespoons of organic maple syrup, a teaspoon of cinnamon powder here, since we have some good quality vanilla extract, we're going to put that as well, just because we can. So we love doing things and playing with the magic of colour, such an important part about transforming humanity's relationship with food, from grey and beige foods to all the colours of the rainbow. And today we are on the yellow part of the spectrum. So we have this wonderful seaweed, pure, nutrient dense. This is the equivalent of having a green smoothie without the green. This is, all the seaweeds are equally wonderful. This one's called Irish moss. Fairly tasteless, fairly colourless. Can almost go in any coloured thing without ruining the colour. So being yellow is such a delicate colour, this is the equivalent of throwing in tons of land vegetables, but we're going to put in some sea vegetables. This is going to thicken it up when it's blended. It's going to add loads of minerals, make it really filling, tangibly nourishing. Trace minerals gaga, all the trace minerals that are in the oceans, and in the right ratio for biological thriving, as well as tons of polysaccharides, otherwise known as glyconutrients, long and fancy names for healing sugars. And since we have some lovely, fresh flower pollen, organic, ethically harvested by conscious beekeepers pollen, isn't this yellow as well? Just to add a bit more protein in there. Because we can, just showing you some of the possibilities. You don't really have to add any of these ingredients specifically. And we're going to put a dash of the pumpkin seed oil in, just in case it's not pumpkin-y enough. So we decided it's not quite sweet enough, and since we've got so many excellent nutritious things in there, a little bit of sugars, a little bit of natural sweetener is not going to do us any harm, especially after an hour and a half jog. I would have loved to have soaked some dried figs to use those as a sweetener, and would have thickened it up quite nicely as well, so maybe we'll try that next time.
Cheers!
Cheers! Thanks, pumpkin.
Totally works. It's really nice warm as well. That is golden milk on steroids. It's great.
We're organic, wild steroids, of course. Get your pumpkins on.